Ladies and gentlemen, when we ponder the question, is there life after death, we often fall into a space where we view death as an end, something final, an inevitable closure. But in truth, death is simply a transition, a passing from one phase to another. Life, in its most profound sense, is not confined to the physical body, and it is not limited by the boundaries of this form. Death, if we understand it deeply, is not something that happens to us, but something that we are constantly in relationship with. From the moment we are born, we are moving toward death. This journey is not about the end of life, but about the transformation of it. What is death then, other than a continuation, a further step, a metamorphosis? Consider this: everything around you, your body, your thoughts, your emotions is but a fleeting expression of a deeper reality. Just like a flower blooms and then withers, this existence too is impermanent. However, the essence of life, the awareness that is behind it all, transcends time and space. If we can understand this, we can understand that death is not the end, but merely a phase in a larger, infinite cycle. When we think of death, it's often framed as a final moment, an abrupt end that leaves us with a sense of loss and finality. But this view of death is limited and rooted in our attachment to the physical body. In truth, death is not an end, it is a transition, a passage from one phase to another in the eternal journey of existence. At the moment of death, the physical body may cease to function, but the energy, the awareness that animates us does not simply vanish. It moves on like water flowing from one place to another. What we call life is merely a temporary expression of a larger, more expansive reality. The body we identify with, the thoughts and emotions we experience, are just instruments of a deeper consciousness that transcends birth and death. When the body's time comes to an end, it is the soul or the deeper essence that moves beyond the physical form, transitioning into the next stage of existence. We can understand this by looking at the natural world. When a leaf falls from a tree, it does not simply disappear, it becomes part of the earth, it nourishes the soil, and in time, it contributes to the growth of new life. Similarly, when the body dies, it doesn't cease to be. It transforms, just like everything in the universe is in a constant state of transformation. This transition from life to death is part of the larger cycle, where nothing is truly lost, but only transformed. Death should not be feared or viewed as something to be avoided, because it is not a loss. It is a necessary and inevitable part of life's rhythm. Without death, life itself could not exist as we know it. We would be forever stuck in one place, unable to evolve, to grow, to become something more. Death is not the opposite of life, it is an integral part of it, facilitating change and the ongoing flow of energy. In every transition, there is a shedding of the old and a movement into the new. Just as a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, the transition from life to death is not a destruction, but a metamorphosis. It is the unfolding of a larger potential, something beyond our understanding, but deeply connected to the source of all creation. Death then is not something to be feared, but to be embraced as a natural part of the existence we are part of. It is a transition just like every other moment of life, and in this understanding, we begin to see that death, like life, is part of the endless flow of existence. The physical form we experience in this life is not permanent. It is constantly changing, evolving, and ultimately deteriorating. From the moment we are born, we begin a journey toward death, with each breath, each movement marking the inevitable progression of time. Our bodies, thoughts, and emotions are expressions of life in a particular moment, but none of them are fixed or eternal. Consider the body itself. Every cell in our body is constantly being replaced. Our skin sheds, our hair grows and falls, our organs change. The body that we identify as ours today is not the same body it was a year ago, nor will it be the same a year from now. Even the thoughts we hold dear, the memories we cherish, the emotions we feel, each one is subject to the currents of time, shifting and fading. The physical form, therefore, is in a continuous state of flux, and it is this impermanence that defines the nature of existence. We become so attached to the body, often believing it is the essence of who we are. But the body is merely an instrument for experiencing the world. It is temporary, a vessel that holds our awareness for a brief period, like a boat carrying a traveler across a river. The boat may eventually wear out, but the traveler continues, moving on to new shores. The impermanence of the body is a reminder that our true nature lies beyond the physical, beyond the temporary expression of matter and form. When we speak of life, we often think of it in terms of the physical body, the breath we take, the movements we make, the thoughts we think. However, this is only one small aspect of life's true essence. The physical body is just a temporary vessel, a means for the deeper, unseen energy that animates it. The true essence of life is not confined to the physical form, it transcends it, existing beyond what we can touch, see, or even comprehend through our limited senses. At the core of our existence is awareness, a presence that is not bound by the body or by time. This awareness is not something we acquire, it is the very foundation of who we are. It is the silent witness to our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, and the ever-changing physical world. It is that part of us which remains constant even as the body ages, as circumstances change, and as we face the inevitable challenges of life. This essence is not visible to the eye, nor is it something that can be defined in terms of shape or form. It is the pure consciousness that observes all things without being affected by them. We often think of ourselves as a body with a mind, but in truth we are far more than that. The body and mind are instruments through which the essence of life expresses itself, but they are not the essence itself. The body is subject to decay, the mind to fluctuation, but the essence within this unchanging awareness is beyond the reach of time and circumstance. It is the space in which all experiences arise, and yet it remains untouched by any of them. Just as the sun illuminates everything around it but remains unaffected by the objects it shines upon, our deeper essence shines through every experience we have, yet it is not defined by any of them. It is not our thoughts, our emotions, or even our body that define us. It is the awareness that is ever present beneath all these layers. This awareness, this essence is what connects us to all of life. It is universal, not individual. It is the same energy that flows through every living being, every element in nature, and every atom in the universe. The awareness that resides within us is not limited to the boundaries of our body or mind. It is the same consciousness that permeates all of existence. This awareness is not confined to the present moment, it is timeless. It does not age or die, nor is it bound by the physical limitations of the world. It is the source of all creation, the underlying presence that animates all things, and the very fabric of life itself. When we come to recognize this essence, we begin to see that we are not separate from the world around us. We are not isolated individuals confined to a singular body. Rather, we are expressions of the same consciousness that flows through all beings. This recognition allows us to experience a deep sense of connection with everything in existence, dissolving the illusion of separation that the body and mind create. We begin to understand that life is not something that happens to us. It is something we are an expression of, something that flows through us beyond the confines of the body and beyond the limitations of time. This essence is eternal and indestructible. It is the reality that persists when the body fades and when the mind quiets. It is the essence of life that cannot be captured by words, yet is felt in moments of stillness, in moments of deep inner peace, or in a flash of profound insight. It is always present, always here, and it is in this recognition that we touch the true meaning of life. Life beyond the body is not something distant or separate, but the very essence of our being. The fear of death is perhaps one of the most primal and universal fears that humans experience. It is deeply ingrained in our consciousness, often influencing the choices we make and the way we live our lives. This fear arises because we see death as something final, an end to all that we know, to everything that is familiar. It represents the unknown, the incomprehensible, and for many, it symbolizes a complete loss of control. But in truth, the fear of death stems not from the concept of death itself, but from our attachment to the physical form, to the transient and impermanent aspects of life. From the moment we are born, we begin to form identities. We identify with our bodies, our thoughts, our emotions, and our possessions, creating a sense of self that feels real and concrete. This identity becomes our anchor, our sense of security, and when we come face to face with the reality of death, this identity is threatened. The thought that all we have known, all we have held on to so tightly will one day be gone is a terrifying proposition. We fear the loss of the body because we believe it is the sum of who we are, not understanding that the body is merely a temporary vessel through which life flows. The fear of death is also deeply connected to our fear of the unknown. We cannot predict what happens after death, and because of this uncertainty, we cling to life as we know it. The mind, in its attempt to make sense of the world, is uncomfortable with anything it cannot categorize, label, or explain. Death, with its mystery and unknowable nature, becomes an existential challenge to the mind which thrives on certainty and control. In the absence of clear answers, the mind creates fear, projecting worst-case scenarios and imagining the worst possible outcome. At the heart of the fear of death is a deeper misunderstanding about the nature of life itself. We often forget that life and death are not opposites. They are interconnected, two sides of the same coin. The body that we inhabit is a temporary form, a vessel for the deeper essence of life, which is unchanging and eternal. When we are overly attached to the body, we perceive death as an ultimate loss, as if something precious will be taken from us. But if we come to understand that the essence of who we are, the awareness that animates the body, is not bound by time or form, then the fear of death begins to lose its power. This fear is also amplified by our desire to control our fate. The more we try to control our circumstances, our health, our relationships, and our material wealth, the more we feel that death is something we must resist, something that stands outside the realm of our control. The more we strive to hold on to life as we know it, the more we create tension within ourselves. We fight against the natural flow of existence, against the impermanence that defines all things. This resistance only strengthens the fear of death, because it makes us feel more vulnerable, more fragile, and more aware of our limitations. In truth, the fear of death is a reflection of our inability to accept the impermanent nature of life. It is a fear rooted in attachment, in identification with the physical body and the fleeting experiences of life. But once we begin to understand that life itself is a constant movement, a flow from one form to another, we begin to see that death is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced as a natural part of existence. The essence of who we are is not tied to the body or to this one lifetime. It is eternal, boundless, and free from the confines of time and space. When we shift our perspective and recognize this deeper truth, the fear of death begins to dissolve, leaving space for peace and acceptance. Consciousness in its truest sense is not a product of the brain or the body, but the fundamental essence of existence itself. It is the awareness that allows us to perceive, to think, to feel, and to experience the world around us. Unlike the physical body, which is subject to decay and eventual death, consciousness is not bound by time or space. It is continuous, unbroken, and eternal. From the moment we are born, consciousness is present, observing and experiencing the world through the lens of the body. It is the silent witness to all our thoughts, actions, and emotions. But while the body changes, grows, and eventually fades, consciousness remains unaltered. It is the same consciousness that flows through us as children, as adults, and as elders. Even as the body ages and the mind shifts, consciousness does not change. It is the constant thread that weaves through every moment of our existence, regardless of the stage or form we take. In fact, consciousness is not confined to the boundaries of the individual body. It is not something that is limited to one person or one life. Rather, it is a universal presence that flows through all of life, permeating every living being, every atom, every object in the universe. When we speak of the continuity of consciousness, we are acknowledging that this awareness is not fragmented or finite. It is a continuous flow, an unbroken current that transcends the limitations of time and individual identity. At its core, consciousness is not defined by the experiences we have, nor by the roles we play in life. It is not shaped by our thoughts, emotions, or memories. It is the underlying presence that makes all experiences possible, yet it is not changed by any of them. Just as the sky remains unaffected by the clouds that pass through it, consciousness remains untouched by the fluctuations of the mind and the body. It is beyond the realm of birth and death, always present, always aware. When we recognize the continuity of consciousness, we begin to understand that we are not merely individuals confined to a single lifetime. The awareness that we are is the same awareness that has existed throughout all time, in all beings, in all forms. It is not subject to birth or death, for it is not the product of the body or the mind. It is the eternal essence that connects us to everything in existence. This continuity is not just an abstract idea but a lived reality. The more we deepen our awareness, the more we begin to sense this unbroken flow of consciousness, both within ourselves and beyond. We begin to feel a connection with the world around us, recognizing that the essence of life is not limited to our own experience but is shared by all. This understanding brings a sense of peace, as we no longer view life through the narrow lens of individual experience, but as part of a larger ongoing cycle. Moreover, when we understand the continuity of consciousness, we see that death is not a finality, but a transition. Just as we are not our bodies or our thoughts, we are not bound by the physical limitations of life. When the body dies, the consciousness that animates it does not cease to exist. It moves on, continuing its journey in a different form or expression. This is not a linear process, but part of the eternal cycle of existence, where consciousness flows from one form to another, always evolving, always growing. In the end, the continuity of consciousness teaches us that we are more than our individual selves, more than our bodies, more than our minds. We are part of a greater infinite stream of awareness that transcends time, form, and identity. This realization frees us from the fear of death, for we understand that we are not confined to a single lifetime. The essence of who we are continues, forever unfolding, beyond the limits of the body and the mind. In the end, When we truly grasp the nature of consciousness and its continuity, we begin to live with a deep sense of freedom and peace. Death, which once seemed like an insurmountable barrier, becomes simply another part of the flow of life, a transition, a transformation, not an end. We begin to live not out of fear of what may come, but with a profound understanding that our essence, our true nature, is timeless and eternal. As we navigate through the ups and downs of life, may we remember that we are not confined to our physical bodies, nor defined by the fleeting moments of our individual existence. The awareness within us is vast, boundless and continuous, forever connected to the greater whole. And in this realization, we discover a peace that transcends the transient nature of life and death. So, let us live fully with awareness of our deeper nature, knowing that life is not something we possess, but something we are a part of, always flowing, always unfolding, ever present. In this understanding, the fear of death dissolves and we embrace the mystery of existence with openness and gratitude. For in truth, life in all its forms is a continuous eternal dance and we are all part of it. Thank you. In the end, when we truly grasp the nature of consciousness and its continuity, we begin to live with a deep sense of freedom and peace. Death, which once seemed like an insurmountable barrier, becomes simply another part of the flow of life, a transition, a transformation, not an end. We begin to live not out of fear of what may come, but with a profound understanding that our essence, our true nature, is timeless and eternal. As we navigate through the ups and downs of life, may we remember that we are not confined to our physical bodies, nor defined by the fleeting moments of our individual existence. The awareness within us is vast, boundless and continuous, forever connected to the greater whole. And in this realization, we discover a peace that transcends the transient nature of life and death. So, let us live fully with awareness of our deeper nature, knowing that life is not something we possess, but something we are a part of, always flowing, always unfolding, ever present. In this understanding, the fear of death dissolves and we embrace the mystery of existence with openness and gratitude. For in truth, life in all its forms is a continuous eternal dance and we are all part of it. Thank you.